Can't make sales. Cannot make one freaking sale this weekend. I mean, I spent a lot of time sourcing these items, took good photos, white backgrounds, and people just aren't buying. And you know, they just don't understand. They don't understand, these buyers, they don't understand the deals that they're getting, combined with eBay's constant glitches. So, you know, probably nobody is making sales this weekend. And, you know, I don't even know how much longer eBay is going to be around. I don't know why I'm wasting my time with this anymore if I cannot make a sale or only make one sale over the weekend. I mean, look at these items. They should be selling. You know, it's my store. I spent money on a store. You know, eBay should be invested in me because, you know, if I put all this money into a store each month, you would think they would want my items to sell and push them out. So, you know, I don't get it. I'm not going to put all this work into eBay and for this to be all I sell for the weekend is one lousy poster. So, you know what, eBay? I'm out. I'm out. I'm done. 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 Okay, now that little tantrum is over with, let's get back to reality, because that's obviously not what I would suggest doing. But there's a lot of people who have those types of feelings when they have a rough weekend like that in which they haven't made any sales in their eBay store, or even if you don't have a store, you know, in your group of listings. And we could also, you know, generalize off of eBay. It doesn't matter really. You might have a slow weekend selling on Amazon or Mercari or Poshmark, wherever the case may be. But the type of attitude that I just displayed is the type of attitude that's really going to get you nowhere. When you start blaming external causes, and don't get me wrong, sometimes there are things that go wrong. I mean, eBay does have glitches and it can mess you up. But the bottom line is you have to find a way to overcome those things. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to give you a bunch of different techniques that you can use to get yourself back on track after a slow weekend of sales. Because if you keep everything the same and you don't change anything and you just sit back and expect everything to change, you're going to continue to have slow weekends in which you make, or slow days in which you make no sales, like that black screen right there, or, you know, maybe you just make one sale or two sales or something like that. So, you know, this was actually one of my weekends of sales. Now, the day or two before that, I had made $250 in sales with a bunch of packages. And then the weekend after that, I made, you know, like 11 or 12 sales. So keep in mind as well that there is a roller coaster aspect of business that happens with any business, in which you're going to have slow times and you are going to have times that are much better. And we're in the fourth quarter right now, so things should be going much better. But this one right here was towards the end of October-ish, and that's typically a slow week in e-commerce sales anyway, so things typically pick back up after that. But they don't just pick up by themselves. You have to do things to make that happen, and that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about different things that you can do to take control and to, you know, make some action happen. Think of just having things going in continuous dynamic movement every day in your store, wherever platform it is that you're selling on. So I've got about 10 or 11 tips here that we're gonna go through. I think 11 because, you know, usually you do a top 10, but I think I just added in an extra bonus one here for you. So I've got my eBay listings here for you, and we're gonna scroll down here, and we're gonna give you some examples, or I'm going to give you some examples of some things to do. And, you know, these things may be things that some of you are already applying. Some of them you may not be applying. You don't have to necessarily apply all of them all at once. Some of these are easier if you have smaller stores or, not thousands and thousands of items, but you could modify what I'm saying in this video if you have thousands of items listed. So let's start with the first thing. The very first thing is, and this gets into that theme of being active every day. You have to list something every single day. It's really important to the model that I'm going to show you, and that's what I want to do. Is I want to take you into what I actually do on a daily and weekly basis, and even monthly basis for that matter, to continue to have good consistent sales on eBay. So and to help me overcome if I have a weekend where things are slow. So listing every day is really a given. You really have to do that. The eBay search engine really likes to see that and will reward you for having consistent listings. It likes to see activity. So keep that in mind. And just think about that. Just if you're someone who likes health and exercise and that sort of thing, you've got to keep yourself moving. You've got to keep yourself active. The more sedentary you are, the more you're sitting around, just the more you're just going to, to fall apart, basically. That's what's going to happen to your store. That's what would happen to your body. You've got to keep moving. And in e-commerce, that means getting new items listed. If you were in a brick and mortar store, that would mean getting items onto the shelf every day. Even if it's just one item, you may have a crazy day. It's so busy and you just, it's just almost impossible. But even if you could at least get one item listing, it still is something that's good to just keep you going. That will carry you forward into the next day where maybe you could get 5, 10, or more listings up. So that's number one. That's the essential, is to make sure you do that. Now, the next thing they want to do, and this is one of the biggest problems that I come across when people ask me to look at their store, or I see people in my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center, mentioning that they have slow sales. And if we go in and look at the store link, one of the problems, besides of course there's always ways to look and improve photos and titles. Those are important issues, but beyond that, what I actually see as the main problem is pricing and difficulty comping items, and just not even doing any comps research. And I'm going to take you through a little example right here to show you what I mean. So I actually have this item listed for sale right over here. Let me show it to you. It's this one right up here. Okay, so this vintage wind-up horse. So this is my actual item. Now, I don't have anything into this item because my father-in-law found it at a garage sale, and he sent it over to us in the mail. He just thought it was a cool item, and he wanted us to just sell it. He just gave it to us just kind of complimentary. Now, it turns out it's not worth a ton of money. You might think it would be because it's a vintage toy, but it's made in China. It's not made in Japan. It has a little number on the back and some letters that help identify it, MS749, sort of like a model number or model code. So you could use that to help figure out what this is. It's a tin acrobat on a horse, but you really just have to type in that MS749 in the advanced tab here. So if you're not familiar, if you're totally brand new, just click this little button here that says advance, and I'll just do that right there. And see, you just type in tin horse MS49, or like I really could just type in MS49 and type in completed listings. Don't just type in sold, because you want to know what sold and what did not sell. That gives you a sense of the sell-through rate. But we'll go back here and it'll tell us some interesting things about the item, because I don't have the box to it. And as you can see here, this person who sold it for $37.99 has the box. Now, a mistake that people will make sometimes, I see this happen all the time, is they will take this item right here without the box. Okay, so, and you could use any analogy you want. The point I'm trying to make here is you're taking something that's similar but not comparable. You'll look at this one and say, you know what, this one sold for 38 bucks, so I'm just going to price this one at $38. Or what someone else will do is they'll say, you know what, it looks like it's a cool old piece. They don't even bother doing any comps research, and they just put it up for $50. And they think that it should sell because it's a cool piece. I mean, it's old, it actually works. it's neat. It still has identification numbers on it. It's from another country, blah, blah, blah. It should sell. This thing should be a $50 item, right? Well, no, it shouldn't be a $50 item because there are a lot of them made. They were made in China, not in Japan. It's not as exclusive as you think. There's still a lot of them around that have the box in them to show you how commonplace some of these are. And here's some. This is why I say you have to also look at which ones didn't sell. That's why you don't just want to go to sold, because sold, if you just did sold, it's going to give you a misleading impression. It's just going to show you this one in the green. The green means that it's it's sold. These ones in black did not sell. So we have some here. Someone tried to put up an auction, $14.99 plus $8.03 and for shipping, and they didn't sell. But just to show you, if we go to that advanced tab, and many of you know this, but this is just for brand new people. If we just go to sold, look what's going to happen here. It's going to eliminate those ones that didn't sell. So if eBay would actually load up the screen. Here we go. So there you go. See those ones that didn't sell that I just showed you before? Now this gives you a completely misleading impression. And I bring this up because I have new people all the time ask me, hey, why aren't you just going to solds and why are you going to completeds? Why do you want to know that? People who are new often don't understand that. But that's why. It gives you a sense of whether or not, how hot the item is, how fast it sells. Because if it was a super, super popular item, then that other one would have sold as well, but it didn't. So these other items here, we have one. It doesn't have the Acrobat on it. Someone took a best offer and had it for $12.99 plus $7.85 shipping. And I don't know what the best offer was that it was accepted for. You used to be able to check that, but eBay knocked out their API for third parties to come in and look at. There were some third-party sites you could go to that would tell you what the best offer price that was accepted. Now you can't really do that unless someone else knows something I don't. But last I checked, those sites were not working anymore for best offers. So anyway, regardless, we have to look at that, but then we also have to look at what is the item currently selling for in terms of, when I say selling for, what do people have it priced at right now? So right here, we've got a buy it now price. I've got that tab enabled and I've got it sorted by lowest price plus shipping. And you saw mine up there, but I've got a comp right here. This one is pretty much the exact same thing as mine. If we look at it, we've got someone with 100% feedback. We've got a $19.99 price plus free shipping, and it works. So it's the same thing as mine. So what I want to talk to you about right now with this part is putting yourself in the best position to make the sale. And to put yourself in the best position to make the sale, if all things are equal, then especially if you don't have much invested into the item, like I have nothing invested in it, or maybe you paid $1 for it, price it just a little bit lower than your competitor, because when your buyer goes to look for it, and if they're a type of buyer like many do that sort by price plus shipping and doing it based on lowest that's going to show up first, then this is the one that is most likely going to sell. Now you can see I've done some other things to spruce it up. I've got a nice white background. This person doesn't. So that also does help make sales. You've got to work your title, of course, but the pricing is very important. Now, some people might say, well, you know what? I don't want to always have the lowest price for everything. I want to compete on other things. Maybe I want to compete on that I have the best packaging, so people love to get my packages, and that's fine. You could develop that and you could sell things based on your branding, but that takes time to build that up that customer base, so you have a loyal group of people that might just purchase from you, just because it's you. There are people and brands that are out there like that. But if you're starting new, this is something more along the lines that you've got to look into, is making sure that you are very competitive on price. Now, when I say lowest price, I'm not saying that you should compete with that person who says $19.99, that you should put it at $14.99. Just putting it a little bit lower is enough to make the difference. And for this model to work, it's very important, again, for you to source things low. So make sure you are comping things properly. Now, you may be upset, by the way, that when you purchase this, you may have thought, okay, well, maybe you didn't check the comps at the scene and you thought this should be a $30 item or a $40 item. don't be stubborn and come back and say, well, I thought it should have been that and I'm going to put it up for that anyway, because chances are it's not going to sell. Can you maybe make that sale? Yes, maybe. But again, this video is designed for people who are struggling and are having difficulty making sales. So if you're watching this, I'm assuming that there are times where you are struggling with low sales and you want a way to kind of make things happen so that you can make those sales occur faster. And this is something you can do. The pricing is in your control, how you list it. Now you can see here I also have free shipping. Now you may not want to do free shipping. Maybe you want to offer shipping and you want to say it's $14.99 plus $4 shipping. Well, that's fine too. You could do that if that's what you want to do. But the bottom line is the total price needs to come under this one. Now, yes, there are some buyers that are going to go out there and they're just going to, type it in and the first one they see, they're going to purchase. Yes, but the way I look at it is that I'm not looking for that type of buyer. I'm specifically looking for the type of buyer that's going to sort for buy it now and lowest price. So that's sort of like a business model that I have. I'm specifically targeting that type of person, and you can do that with your business. You could have a business that's set up to target certain types of buyers. So that's the basics on the comps. You could really use that example that I just gave you to any single item that you have in any niche whatsoever. So the next thing I'm going to go to is, and this is consistent with having something you're doing every single day. So we talked about listing every day. That was number one. We talked about comping things properly. So number three is making sure each day that you're going through your items. And this is why I say it's important. I'm going to go down to the bottom here of my most recently listed item, is to make sure that you are going through and you are looking at your prices and adjusting them each day as needed. And this is my suggested approach. I'm telling you what I do. And if you want to modify that in some way, feel free. You don't have to do it exactly how I do. But here's my philosophy when I list an item. I put an item up. So let's say, let's see, one that I just put up yesterday. So this Warhammer Fantasy role-playing game book. Okay, now, this book is going to sell, I could tell, based on the comps. You can see I have it up for $70. Maybe it won't sell for $70, but it'll be a nice sale based on my prior research on the item. But you always have to remember, okay, especially if you're brand new, you might think you have this awesome item and get frustrated even after 24 hours. Why the heck didn't it sell? Why isn't anyone making an offer? And the very simple reason for that, the person looking for the Warhammer Realms of Sorcery book might not be looking for it today, and might not be looking for it tomorrow. They may be looking for it in 4 days or 5 days, but right now, just not looking for it. Maybe it'll be a couple weeks before you have someone who's really interested in it. So depending on how niche your item is going to affect how many people are going to come in and look at it, as soon as you put it up. There are some times you'll sell things very fast, a higher demand item, depending on how you priced it, but sometimes it takes a little time. My philosophy on this, and this gets back to business philosophies, is that your item, if it's an amazing item, it's high demand, you've priced it properly, you've got it up for buy it now, make an offer, then in the ideal situation, you should be able to sell it within 7 days. So within a week. Okay. Now, there's obviously lots of items that are not going to sell within that time frame. That just means the person who is the right person may just not have come along. It might not be priced just right for the person who does have some interest in it, and they're just kind of waiting it out a little bit. So what that means, if the price is the issue, is that you have to lower the price. So when do you lower the price? What I do is I wait 7 days. And after those 7 days, so once we get, and I'm going to scroll this up here, once we get to 22 days, because so that would mean 7 days has passed. So actually we could see right here, we've just come across from my Indiana Jones and Infernal Machine video game sign. This one, I have it at $349.99. I have 16 watchers on the item. Now, it's a high-priced item. For this item, I actually don't mind at this point going in and lowering it another $25. So I'll lower that right there to $324.99. Now, how high you have your item priced and how many watchers you have, in my opinion, should be something that shapes how much the price drop is. So, and sometimes I would not suggest doing any price drop. So, for example, you could see this lot of 10 Death's Head comic books right there. Now, I'm not going to sell 10 comic books for less than $9.99. I've had those up for a while. They could just sit there for as long as, you know, I decide to keep them up, but I'm not going to put the price lower than that. That's why you can see there's no best offer enabled. So I'm not saying to lower the price on every single thing. You've got to get to a point where you say, okay, I can't go any lower than this, and I've got to either keep it there for a while or I've got to do something else with it later on. We'll talk about that later on in the video. But let's take an item like this one here. So Green Lantern, this book right here. So New 52 hardcover book. Okay, I had it for $17.99 for a week. Didn't sell. Has a watcher on it. Anything that's really usually at the $19.99 range or lower, I typically just take $1 off of it after a week if it has a watcher or more. Now, depending on the item, if it has 0 watchers on it, which indicates there's no interest in it, then I might lower it a little bit more than that. So the most I usually would go down from a $19.99 is from $19.99 to something like $17.50. Okay, so you've just got to make that decision. Sometimes for, you know, a higher priced item like this one here, like this train card. It's one of my train cards. Now, I had this up for $99.99. It has no watchers on it. And you all know, if you've been watching my videos, how well I do with selling these LGB trains. But this one hasn't had any interest yet. There's no watchers on it. I had it for $99.99 for a week. That tells me I've got it priced too high for the people who looked at it. So I lower it to $89.99. Now, let's just play this out a little bit. Let's say by next weekend, the price is still, you know, I still have it at $89.99 and I've got 4 watchers on it or 3 watchers on it or even 2 watchers on it. Now I'm not going to lower it $10 anymore. I'm going to only lower it $5. So I'll lower it down from $89.99 to $84.99. And I want to get into this for a moment about the watchers, because sometimes I hear these absolute statements made, and I've mentioned this before, that people sometimes say, watchers don't mean anything. And that's too extreme of a statement. So if what watchers don't mean anything means that having watchers doesn't guarantee 100% that you're going to make a sale, and having no watchers doesn't guarantee that you're not going to make a sale, well, that's true. It's not an exact one-to-one relationship. It's not absolute. But the higher the amount of watchers that you have, the more likely it is that you are going to make the sale. There is a correlation. There is a positive association between the two. And by the way, watching something is an indicator of behavior. Someone actually had to go, they had to hit that watch button, and that's giving you data right there. Now, it might be another seller who's looking at it, but even if another seller is looking at it, that's still another seller who's expressing interest for some reason. And you don't click to watch things if there's not something appealing about it in some way. So it's still telling you something positive about your item is generating excitement on some level to somebody. So I use that as an indicator as to how much I am going to lower the price after another week goes by of no sales. Now, that is what I do at the 7-day mark. So I do that every day. I look for the items that I had just listed. That's why I say listing every day is important, because if you list every day, then for things that didn't sell for that one day, when you get to that 22-day mark, then you're going to have something to go in and to revise. Now, in the ideal situation, everything you listed on that particular day would have sold. So maybe on that one day, you don't have anything to go in and to revise because all your items sold that you had listed 1 week prior. But if not, you will have something to go back and look at. So that then brings me to having a designated day of the week, which for me was today. So Saturday. Now you can make it any day you want. It doesn't matter. You could do Monday, Tuesday. It doesn't matter. But have one designated day that you go through your items and you look at them just to see, one, is there something wrong? Like, for example, is there, like, let's say I had this item, let me go down maybe a little bit here. So maybe there's like 7 days left in something. So let's say here, like, these salt and pepper shakers, they have 300, almost 300 views and 13 watchers. But let's say I had them up for this amount of time and they only had 10 watchers. Well, that's telling, I'm sorry, they only had 10 views. That's telling me there's something wrong if it only has 10 views and it's been up for 23 days. So something needs to change. That's giving you data. That's giving you a clue right there. Maybe you type something in wrong. Maybe there's something really wrong with your picture. Maybe you accidentally typed the price as $199.99. I've made mistakes like that before. You accidentally put in the wrong price. So it pays to go in and double check things like that to make sure there's no error. Maybe you need to promote the listing. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But have a designated day where you are going through the items to look for things like that, but also to adjust price. One day a week for anything that is beyond that 7 day mark. So don't adjust the price on anything that you just listed within that first week, but anything beyond that, with the exception of, now this is my thing, you could change it however you want. I won't lower the price for anything that has 2 days left on it. That's just my number. For you, it might be a day because it's just coming to the end and it's going to relist. It's going to automatically repopulate. And then when it does that, I will go down and I will take those new items and I will adjust the price. If need, I'll lower it a little bit, or I might decide to promote it. We'll get into, again, promotions in just a moment. But like this item right here, this phone, right now I'm not going to adjust the price on the phone. It's going to end in 10 hours. I'm just going to leave it be. And then if it doesn't sell in 10 hours, tomorrow I will adjust the price on it. But right now I'm just going to leave it be. But if we move out, and I did all of these this morning, so let's go to, for example, this Captain Crunch item. Now I have 6 watchers on this. I had it this morning at $49.99. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I lowered the price down to $47.50. And so here's the thing you're doing. There's 6 watchers there, and you got to assume that at least someone there, at least one of them, is someone who's watching because they're interested in buying it. They can't all be sellers. I mean, technically, yeah, I guess they could be, but the chances of that are very low. And they're going to start getting, eBay sends people notifications when you start doing price drops, okay? So what you're hoping for is just by, and you have to have patience with this approach, but that just by slowly lowering it, what's going to happen over time is as you slowly lower it, the watchers are going to build up, and we're going to get to some point where a line is crossed where a buyer says, all right, you've dropped it enough and I want to go get it because I don't want those other watchers to go in and grab it. And you see, someone might ask, well, why are you saying all this stuff on video? You know, can't buyers watch this and understand that every Saturday you lower the price and that type of thing? They can. They can, but I don't care. And our chances are they're not going to do that. Buyers don't usually watch YouTube videos like that, but they can. But here's why I don't care. Because let's say they know I lower the price every Saturday, right? Well, and it's Monday, and I just lowered the price to $47.50. Well, now the buyer has to take a risk. Do they want to wait another 7 days for me to do a price drop? Or are they worried that someone else is going to come in and grab the item right then and there and take it from under them? And usually that anxiety of not wanting to miss out on the item is enough to make someone go ahead and make the purchase. And I'm telling you this based on an approach that I have used successfully selling on eBay. I did a video of bringing in this year $10,000 in gross sales with an 80 to 90% profit margin on the items in 60 days. So I'm telling you, this approach that I'm explaining to you, all these different things, and you have to fiddle with them from time to time and make adjustments, but this approach does work if you use these things, because again, the whole principle, you're keeping things active, you're making adjustments, you're doing something every day, you're getting something listed every day, you're adjusting price for things that are not selling, you're making your store dynamic. Now, what you're not seeing, and this is something you can do, I'm jumping ahead to another. Since I'm on this topic, I'm jumping ahead to another thing that you obviously could do, is you can run sales. Okay, you could run a sale, you could run some type of promotion, you could run some type of combo, buy two get one free. You know, you could choose, if you want to say $49.99 with a slash mark and then a $47.50. I don't do that. I could literally tell you that I have never ever run a sale on eBay that shows up as a sale. Now, I know some people are going to think that's absolutely crazy, but the reason that I don't do that is because, you know, most buyers are pretty savvy about this stuff. Okay, a lot of buyers know that sometimes people are just going to put up a price up top that isn't even really the price, and then, you know, they never were going to have it list. Let's say I put this up and say $59.99 and then show it drop to $47.50. Well, a lot of them are going to know that the $59.99 price wasn't ever realistic to begin with, and you know, they're just going to purchase it based on the number that they see there, which is $47.50. So, and the other thing is that with sales, one of the issues I have, and this is one of the things that actually partly destroyed JCPenney. I mean, it's not the only thing, but if you talk to people who shopped at JCPenney's, they would never buy things at the store on days that they didn't have sales, because they always knew that sometime during the week they were going to run a sale. So there'd be periods in their store would just be absolutely dead, where nothing would move, because the customer would just know, I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to buy things on the sale day. So they would just wait it out. And so I just have the philosophy of, I'm just going to compete on price and value, and I don't have to run a sale, because why do I have to run a sale, for example, if my price right here for the horse, as an example, is the lowest price for the horse? And same thing for my Captain Crunch. That is the lowest price for that particular item. So that's just my philosophy. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with running a sale or running a promo or anything like that. It is a strategy to use that can be successful. That's just my own pet peeve, I guess, or my own reasoning behind it in terms of why I do it. But I'm, again, not saying there's anything wrong with doing it if that's what you want to. I know a lot of people have success with sales, and it is a way that you can do something to generate activity. It's just not something I choose to do, and I've still managed to be, and that's one thing I wanted to show you, is you can still be successful as a reseller without putting out an explicitly marked sale on your store, or on your items. Okay, so let's move to the next thing that you can do to make some progress towards advancing sales in your store. And what I would suggest you do is that you double down on whatever your niche is. So for me, you know, my niche is comic books. Now, for somebody else, it's going to be some other topic. So maybe it's sports cards, or maybe it's clothing, or maybe it's posters or shoes. It doesn't matter. It could be books. It does not matter what it is. But you should have one item, or maybe two sets of items that you know that you have a pretty good mastery of, and you know better than most people. And it's the item or group of items that you have that sell the most. And for me, it's always been comic books. You know, that's why my store has a comic book, theme behind it and everything. You can see right here. So, and I never ever have a time, not once ever in my store, that there's not comic books. So what I do when I say double down on niche is that if you're having a slow weekend and things are not moving, like, this weekend over here, well, guess what I'm doing? I'm going, and now because I have a lot of items. If you go and watch my treasure hunts, I pick up all sorts of stuff. But I say, all right, I'm going back to my niche, and I'm going to my comic books, and I'm going to list a certain dollar amount of comic books. So let's say for last weekend, I said, before I made all these other sales that you saw over here, I just said right after this, I'm putting up $400 worth of comic books, and that's what one of the things that started to sell were the comic book related items. And so if that didn't work, let's say the $400 worth of comic books didn't work. Okay. Or maybe I only made a few sales on that. Well, guess what? The next time it's time for me to double down on niche, I'm putting up $500 worth of comic book items, or, $450 worth. And, maybe I have a second niche that works well for me, and I'm going to dive into that as well. And I'm going to focus on that. Focus on, in other words, what's working with you. A lot of times we could get distracted by going for other items that we are kind of dabbling in a little bit and spend too much time putting those types of things up. And we need to go back and remember, what we're best at. And so I'll always be best at this topic area, and I'm always developing in others. But this is why, and what I mean when I say double down on niche, it's something that could be very, very helpful for you. And think again in terms of not just the number of items you're listing, but think in terms of dollar amount. So get a certain dollar amount, however many items it takes to hit that $400 in clothes, or $400 in books, or three. And you could start at 100 or 150, wherever you are in your business. Take that number and just expand it up until, by the way, you get to a point where that is making you consistent sales every day. So you might realize that when you list $300 worth of clothes, all in one shot, or, across a couple of days, that is now giving you consistent sales each day. So you see, again, the theme is you're not going to just lay back and succumb to eBay glitches and, blame the buyers and all this other stuff. You are going to take control. You're going to tune all that other stuff out and control what you can control. Focus on what you could focus. Treat what you can treat. Don't worry about the things too much that are outside of your control, beyond just trying to figure out ways to work around those things. Now, I'm going to get into an area that is, of course, somewhat controversial. I did a video on it earlier this year, as have other YouTubers as well. But the topic of promoted listings is controversial because there was some information about ad blockers, shutting off views for promotions, and again, the way eBay handled it wasn't great. I'm not going to go in and open up a whole can of worms on it. You could go back in my video and watch all about it. But I did tell you in that video that I still decided to stick with the promoted listings. I made 2 sales last night that were from promoted. Now, might they have sold without promoted? They may have. But, what can I tell you? This is the position that eBay has put many of us in. And if we don't have thousands of items that we could rely on, and we're relatively smaller sellers compared to the power sellers out there, they're putting 5 promoted listings on the front of the page now, and so it is becoming more pay to play. So, but here's what I said in the video, and I'll mention it now if you didn't go and look at it. What I would suggest is not automatically coming in right off the bat and promoting an item. So, for example, let me tell you what I mean. So let's go back to that Warhammer book, okay, that I put up. That Warhammer book I put up yesterday, it's not promoted. The Palladium Rifts book, not promoted. The General Electric Walkman, not promoted. The Russian vocabulary cards, not promoted. Okay, there's a bunch of things here that are not promoted. The basketball, not promoted. Did not promote that yet. So now there are some things that I have promoted here at the bottom, but these are because these are things that haven't sold yet and they've gone through a cycle. And that's one of my points. If something hasn't sold through an entire cycle, through an entire 30 days, sometimes instead of doing a price drop, you're actually better off just doing the promotion. Because if you were going to drop an item $5 versus promoting it, and it would cost you, let's say you promoted it at 5%, and it would have cost you $2.50 if it sells, you're better off in that instance in doing the promotion. You actually would save less money or save more money if you were doing it that way. So I do think that promotion does help. And that's why I still do it, but I don't do it on every item. Now, I will sometimes, the only exception to me promoting within the first 7 days, because generally I won't, is if I put an item up, everything looks good with it in terms of the title, the pictures, but it's just not getting enough views that I want. And by that I mean, like, let's say I put it up and within 24 hours it only has like 5 views. Well, I know there's some kind of issue there with exposure. I might be in a very competitive, saturated category. Then I will promote. I start my promotions at 5% and I move up beyond that, but I will not go higher than 10% in terms of promotion. So, and usually, you know, I have very few items that are at 10%. I generally try not even to go beyond the 9. Most I keep around that 5, 6, 7, 8% range. But, you know, you've got to decide what's best for you. But that's a suggestion, is to do something with regards to promotion, because again, it is giving you more exposure and, you know, can help you make some sales. It's something, again, that you can do, that you could take some control over, to get some more exposure for your items. Now, another thing that you can do, and this is why it's important to build up social media networks. You hear me talk about my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. And within that group, I have specific things every day for people to help them promote and get their items listed. So for example, we have a theme day, like today is Star Wars Saturday. So if you happen to have a Star Wars item for sale, you could post one link to your Star Wars item in my group and someone might buy it. We've had many people make sales that way. There's other events we have. Right now we're having reseller battles where people are going against each other and we're focusing, it's who could sell the item the fastest. So we're picking certain people out and they have like a competition, who could sell it fastest. And we've had, we just started this the other day. We have 5 competitions so far and 5 items I've sold just like that within a few minutes of putting it up. So we have all sorts of things. We have seller-thons, things like that. So get involved in my Facebook group for sure, because it definitely can help you make some sales. We have the seller-thon. We have an event called Reseller Dominoes where some person sells something or purchases it from somebody, and then the next person who comes in has to buy from the person who just made a purchase, and it just goes on and on like that, like dominoes. So if you're in my Facebook group, you could definitely get exposure for your items. You could join down below in the description section. Another thing you could do is just try to develop a following on social media somewhere. One of the best places to do it is on Instagram. I've talked about my Instagram account before, at prime_time_treasure. Here it is right here. Now at this point I don't have a ton of followers, but I have over 4,000, and it's at the point now where I could put something in my Instagram stories. If you're not familiar with that, you could just put like a little video, or you could put a picture of something, maybe one of your items. And now when I put it, I get usually between 150 and 200 people who will look at it. And so what I did the week after I only sold that one poster is I took a little video while I was photographing this item here, this George Perez signed 1994 Avengers Assemble limited lithograph print, celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Avengers. It's a really cool piece. I put it up for $299.99, so right around that $300 range right there. And I put the little video into my Instagram story right up here, and within about, I'd say, less than an hour, and it shows me who viewed it. The same person who viewed it within that 1 hour made me an offer for $250, and it sold. And that sold because I took action and I put it on Instagram, and it wound up going to somebody who follows my account. And I used hashtags too. So if you're not familiar with hashtags, put that little number sign next to it and put something that's related to your item in there, like Avengers, or you could put this in your main Instagram feed as well and talk about it and get people to look at it. And you could also put hashtags in your Instagram stories. So it's another way to promote things. And in fact, if you go here and you look at this big stack of items that I sold, well, right up top, what does that say right up there? That's the Avengers tube right there going out to the customer. You could see it right there. That's part of that big stack, and you could even see it, that same thing, there it is right over here. So just proof right there of, again, taking action and not just sitting back. Again, I have to emphasize this because a lot of people just get so down and get brought into the negative, and you got to bring yourself out of that. So when you have that weekend where you don't make any sales, or you only make 1 sale, or maybe make 2 sales, and that's not good enough, I want you to think back to this picture of the poster, and then I want you to think back of what happens after you just do more things to take action. Now, yes, I had been doing, you might ask, weren't you doing all these things you were saying right around the time that you only made this one sale on the poster? Well, yes, but that's when I say still, you've got to double down. So that's when I said, all right, I got to double down on niche, and I've got to now forget this other stuff I was going to list. I got to go back to my comics and comic related items, get those listed, start, again, market some particular items more aggressively. And sure enough, things turn around. Now, normally my regular approach gives me a consistent amount of sales, as I've shown in my what's sold videos and that sort of things. But listen, there's no business out there that is immune from a slow week of sales. I don't care what it is. If it's a pizza shop, if it's any kind of restaurant, you name it, that's why they have events designed during the week to bring people in. Come in and your kids eat free. They're always doing some kind of, promo like that to get people to come over. So, and same thing with e-commerce. It's just part of what happens when you're in business, is you're gonna have some slow days. So that's important as well, is to make sure you tell yourself those kind of things, those positive, affirmative thoughts. So that could help you as well, just to remind yourself that sometimes there's some slow days. Now, another thing you could do, when I said go through your items, so do some combos sometimes, okay? For items that aren't selling, combine them in ways to make them sell. So let me give you an example of something that I recently did. I just got to find it. I'll talk about it a little bit while I'm scrolling to find it. There were these two, you might actually remember this if you've been watching my haul videos for a long time. There were these two Kurt Cobain photographs of him, and it's probably back on the first page. There it is. I think one is black and white and one is color. And I've had them up for $9.99 for the longest time. And I had a lot of watches on them. I can't remember. I had like 7. Well, I'll actually see right here. 5. I have 5 watchers on them. Now, they just wouldn't sell. I'll actually show you the photos right here. Let me just get it up here. It's these 2 photos that you see right here. Okay, so I had these, and they just wouldn't sell for $9.99 despite having the 5 watchers. In fact, at the time, might have been 4. But then what I did is I came across this. This is actually a Kurt Cobain graphic novel that talks about his death. It's a pretty neat book. It's actually, I have it sealed. Now, I had these for $9.99, right? Well, I combined it with the book, and I kept it within the same listing. I just changed the title, put the photos up, and now I have it for a $27.50 listing. And I do this type of stuff all the time. For stuff that is not selling individually, find some way to make some type of combo out of it. Now, let me show you an example of something that I'm probably going to do this weekend with regards to some of my Budweiser hats. Now, I had put up about 7 or 8 hats around the same time, and some of them were Budweiser, and a bunch of them sold. But then there are some ones that have just kind of been stragglers and have been sitting around at this $9.99 range for a while, and they haven't moved. And one of them is down here, is this green one that just renewed. No watchers, 116 views. This is this Budweiser beer. It's a St. Patrick Irish one. Now, this is not sold, but it's $9.99. Okay, let me go up, and I've got 2 other Budweiser hats that haven't sold. We've got this one right here at $9.99, still has 0 watchers. It's been up for a couple cycles. It's a cool hat, but for whatever reason, it's people don't want to spend the $9.99 on it. And then I have another one that does have a watcher on it. That one's also at $9.99, this red and beige one. Okay, so what I am going to likely do this weekend is I'm just going to take those 3 hats, I'm going to combine them together into one listing, and I'm going to put them up for $29.99 and see if they sell. And if they don't, I'm then going to go into the same exact approach that I mentioned earlier. I'll wait a week, I'll see what happens, I'll lower it maybe to $27.50, then maybe to $24.99 until we get to a certain point that I've got to account for the shipping fees, and I've got to account for, the seller fees and stuff like that. But, you get it to a certain point where you're just not going to go any lower. That's just, again, an important point. I'm not saying to just keep lowering things until it's not profitable. You can continue to lower it until you get to the point that you are not comfortable putting it down anymore. And at that point, take the best offer off of it and switch it to buy it now. And that should help you. I guess the last thing that I would tell you to do, because you see a lot of my things are buy it now, or best offer enabled, or sometimes it's just buy it now. But another thing that you can do, especially if you have $9.99 items, or some lower priced items, maybe you go a little bit lower than that, or maybe a little higher, depends on where your number is. But consider putting that up for a 7-day auction to create a little bit of pressure, and just put it at that price that you were comfortable selling it at for buy it now. I'll give you an example of this. I'm actually experimenting with this a little bit right now. So, well, here's an auction, and many of you know this from watching my video on the Monster magazines, and we have 21 watchers on this thing. This is going to go off. We have 8 bids. These are really cool. These are going to go off, let's see, here we go. That's going to go, I think tomorrow it actually ends. Isn't it tomorrow? Yeah, I think it's tomorrow. So it's, but that's not, I talked in that video in terms of why I set that one up for auction. But let me give you another example. This one here is probably a better example of what I want to talk about. So it's a postcard. And I was going to just list this postcard for $9.99 and see where, and just, see if it's sold. But I decided, you know what? It's really a pretty cool postcard. It's got some African-American Americana in it. It's, really nice art in it. It's really vintage. I really love the look of it. I said, this is something that I think a postcard collector may pay up for. So I'm happy to take the $9.99, but let me just experiment. I'll put it up for 7-day auction, because if I put it at $9.99, I might wait a month or 2 before this sells. So put a little pressure on the buyer right there. Put it up at that price you were going to be comfortable enough with anyway. And, it ends in 3 days, and it's got 3 watchers on it. So it very well may sell at that point for $9.99 or more. I might be pleasantly surprised in terms of what it goes for. And so I might start putting more lower priced items like that up for auction. Now these Monster magazines are not a lower priced item. I do expect the price of this to go up substantially more by the time it ends, but I was comfortable doing that based on my experience, by the way, and experience does play a role in what you're going to put up for auction, in selling vintage ephemera type of items like this, like Mad magazines and things, up for auction that have a little bit of damage on it. I've done well using that approach. So, but just keep in mind, don't completely ignore the auction format. Really can help you. So a total in there, that was 11 different tips, if you go in and go back and count them all up, that could really help you move your items if you're having slow sales. Don't give up. Stay positive. Stick with it. You will turn things around if you use the methods and the approaches that I'm telling you in here, provided that you've sourced good items, of course. If you've bought terrible items, then nothing's really going to help you sell them. But that's why, by the way, this is just one little extra bonus tip. I talked about comping things. Sometimes it's too late to start comping things once you've got home. You need to be comping things, or just know it based on experience when you are out sourcing, because that will give you a very good idea of, if you purchase it, what's the likelihood that it is going to sell. Having patience does pay off. There's plenty of higher priced items that I have here in my store that I'm comfortable waiting a while and just wait until they sell, because I have other items that I know are just going to sell throughout the week. So have a mix, by the way, of I would suggest of having some lower priced items with some long tail items. That's a very successful business model that a lot of resellers use. If you just have things that are super expensive, there's going to be a lot of people who you're going to turn off to your store who may come in and purchase something at a lower price and then get interested in something higher price that they see. But if they just have the perception that everything you sell is $100 or more, then they might not they might not want to come and take a look and just think of it as just an overpriced place. Not to say that model can't work in some situations. If you just have a really high demand item and you're targeting that type of buyer, then it certainly, it could work. But for most people, especially people who are starting out, I would definitely suggest that blend of higher priced and lower priced items mixed up into the store. So I hope that all helps for you. If there's a tip in here that I mentioned that you plan on implementing, or that maybe I hadn't thought of before, let me know. Also, if there's other tips that you like to use and want to share with the with the viewers who are going to go down and check into the comment section. Remember, those comment sections are real important. People are going down, looking in there, reading, and getting additional source of value from what you have to add in there. So it's real important to, to put those comments in there if you have something useful to add. And I like to hear the feedback too, and what you feel is helpful and what's working for you. So if you like the video, make sure you like it. Give it a big thumbs up. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. We are on the verge of 9,000 subscribers. And by the way, when I hit 9,000 subscribers, there is going to be a giveaway on this channel. I'm giving away a chance to be the selected seller at Support That Seller Sunday. We're over 13,000 members of the Facebook group. The Facebook Reselling Resource Center are all asked to go purchase something from you, and that typically results in hundreds of dollars of sales for that one person. It's free to enter. It follows all the rules of YouTube and all that sort of stuff. So it's not sponsored by YouTube, by the way, or associated with YouTube in any way, except for that I'm going to have the giveaway here. But go check it out. That's at my Facebook group. The Facebook Reselling Resource Center is where you enter. You just have to put a screenshot showing that you're subscribed to the channel. It's in the announcements section. And someone else is going to be winning a mystery box, and that's going to be on the first live show after we hit 9,000 subscribers here. Also, I'm going to give an early plug for this. Wednesday night, I've got the College Picker coming on for a live show. You have got to, that's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday night. You've got to put that on your calendar. This is an 11-year pro who, and if you're watching this after the interview was done, you've got to go back and watch it, because this is someone, just to give you an example, who bought a Levi's jean jacket for $1.50 and sold it on Etsy for over $5,000 in what is possibly the largest single clothing item sale in the history of Etsy. I don't know exactly, but if not, it's got to be pretty darn close. So he's an amazing guy. Eric, not the Vintage Flipper. We had the Vintage Flipper on earlier this year for another great interview, but Eric, the College Picker. So make sure you check that out. That's going to be a fun time. As usual, make sure that you come by to my Instagram account right here. It's @prime_time_treasure. I put some exclusive videos up for you there. That is not at my YouTube channel. So go and make sure you check that out. So I appreciate everyone watching the video, and I'll see you next time. Take care.